You think you know the person sleeping next to you. You think you know the sound of their breathing when they dream, the little sigh they make when they're truly content. You build a life on these assumptions, brick by brick, until you have a home. And then, one day, you find a single brick is loose. And when you pull it out, the entire wall comes crashing down. My name is Alex, and this is the story of how my wife's weekend trip destroyed our marriage, and the one simple thing I did that made her entire world shatter. It started on a Thursday. The air in our house felt different. Thinner. My wife, Clara, was humming, a nervous, buzzing energy coming off her as she moved from the closet to our bed, laying out clothes with a precision I hadn't seen in years. Not for work, not for a date with me. These were different. A new dress, the kind that catches eyes. Lingerie I'd never seen before, lace and silk that whispered secrets instead of shouting them. She told me she was going on a weekend team-building retreat with her new colleagues. A necessary trip, she said, to foster synergy. But her eyes, those beautiful green eyes I'd looked into when I proposed, wouldn't meet mine for more than a second. They were dancing somewhere else, with someone else. A cold knot tightened in my stomach. Call it intuition, call it fear, but I knew. I just knew. The confirmation came the next morning, just an hour before she was due to leave. Her phone buzzed on the kitchen counter while she was in the shower. A text notification lit up the screen. I wasn't going to look. I told myself I wasn't that man. But my hand moved on its own, a betrayer to my better judgment. The message was from her coworker, Mark. It wasn't about synergy. It was a single sentence: can't wait to have you all to myself this weekend. This is going to be unforgettable. The world shrank to the size of that glowing screen. The hum of the refrigerator was the only sound in the sudden, deafening silence. Unforgettable. Yes, it was going to be that. Rage, cold and sharp, replaced the blood in my veins. I wanted to scream. I wanted to throw something. I wanted to confront her right there, to watch the lies crumble on her face. But a different, quieter, more dangerous idea began to form. A plan that required patience, not passion. Cold execution, not hot anger. She wanted an unforgettable weekend? I was going to make sure she got one. I waited until she was in the bathroom, blow-drying her hair, the noise a perfect cover. I walked into our bedroom and looked at the open suitcase on the bed. It was a portrait of her deception, neatly folded and packed for a romantic getaway with another man. And that's when I saw it. The small, hidden zipper compartment on the inside lid of the suitcase. The one she thought I didn't know about. We'd laughed about it when we bought the set, calling it the contraband compartment for smuggling snacks into hotels. Now, I was going to use it to smuggle in a truth bomb. Quietly, my heart hammering against my ribs like a trapped bird, I unzipped it. It was empty. I left the room, went to my office drawer, and took out a small, inexpensive, but very reliable GPS tracker I used for hiking. I activated it, synced it to my phone, and slipped it into the compartment, zipping it shut. It was my silent witness. My digital spy. Then, I looked at the clothes. The dresses, the lingerie. And I made my second move. With meticulous, almost surgical care, I took a pair of fine-point fabric scissors from her sewing kit. And I began to make tiny, almost imperceptible cuts. A single thread in the seam of the dress, right under the arm. A few more threads in the gusset of the silk panties. A tiny snip in the lining of her favorite blouse. Nothing that would be visible when she packed it. Nothing that would be noticeable when she put it on. But the stress of movement, the simple act of wearing them, would tell the story later. The seams would slowly unravel. The fabric would tear at the slightest strain. Her perfect facade would literally fall apart at the seams, just like our marriage. I closed the suitcase. I walked away. When she came out, smiling, pecking me on the cheek with a "See you Sunday, honey," I smiled back. It was the hardest performance of my life. The moment her car pulled away, I opened the tracking app on my phone. The little blip moved, not towards the conference center on the other side of the city, but directly to the boutique hotel downtown. The one known for its romantic suites and weekend packages. I watched the blip sit in that hotel parking lot for the entire weekend. I didn't sleep. I just watched the screen, each passing hour etching the betrayal deeper into my soul. Sunday evening, she came home, her skin flushed with a weekend of sun and sin. She was chatty, full of fake stories about trust exercises and presentations. I just listened, nodding, my smile a frozen mask. I knew exactly where she'd been, almost room for room. The tracker had given me a map of her deceit. The fallout didn't happen that night. It happened the following Friday, when she was packing for another girl's night. She pulled out the dress, the same one from her trip. She was going to wear it for him again. As she slipped it over her head, I heard a faint ripping sound from the bedroom. Then a sharp, frustrated gasp. She came out holding the dress, the seam under the arm gaping open like a wound. "Can you believe this?" she fumed. "It just tore. This was expensive." I looked up from my book, my voice dangerously calm. "That's strange. Maybe it's the same thing that happened to your favorite silk panties last weekend." The color drained from her face. It was instantaneous. She looked like a ghost. What are you talking about?" "I'm talking about the Grandview Hotel, Clara," I said, my voice still quiet, but every word landing like a hammer. "I'm talking about room 214 on Friday night, and how you spent most of Saturday by the pool. I'm talking about the Italian restaurant you went to on Saturday night. I'm talking about Mark." Her knees buckled. She didn't just sit down, she collapsed onto the couch, her hands trembling. How could you possibly know that?" I picked up my phone, opened the tracking app, and showed her the history. The entire route, the timestamps, the locations. "I packed a little something extra for you in your suitcase. In the contraband compartment." The realization hit her like a physical blow. She hadn't just been caught in a lie. She had been living her betrayal with my eyes watching her every move, my silent, digital witness documenting her every sin. The violation she felt in that moment was a mirror of my own. The horror in her eyes was the confirmation of her guilt. She broke down completely, sobbing, begging, offering 1,000 explanations that were just more lies layered on top of the rotten foundation. But for me, it was over. The satisfaction of that moment, of seeing the perfect trap spring shut, was cold and absolute. There was no anger left, only a vast, empty certainty. I had already seen a lawyer. The divorce papers were drafted. When I slid them across the kitchen table to her the next morning, her tears meant nothing. The performance was over. The truth was out. And her unforgettable weekend, the one she had planned with Mark, had indeed been unforgettable. It was the weekend she lost her husband, her home, and the life she had taken for granted. All because of a loose thread, and the one who was quietly pulling it.